CBA and the league have agreed to essentially telling the players to not sign a new deal until this finished, which I feel like that's a given. Of course, you shouldn't sign a deal under the old CBA when you're going into this new CBA that is going to raise salaries.
There's a subject we must discuss that no one dares to voice. Unrivaled completely failed and floundered in its second year, with figures that are truly harsh. Its viewership has dropped by more than 60%. Even as the WNBA prepares to compensate its athletes more than $1 million each season, the circuit meant to rescue women's basketball struggles to attract 30,000 viewers. This is the stark awakening no one anticipated, and it will soon reveal all the flaws in our coverage of this game. Allow me to be perfectly explicit right from the start. I'm not present to gloss over anything. Journalists have been overly cautious regarding women's basketball for ages, distributing commendation awards as if they were treats on Halloween. However, when you're working with truly top-tier professional sports people, you aren't granted special leniency. You face direct criticism exactly like the men do, because that's what true equality entails. Therefore, here's what just emerged. Front Office Sports released a recent piece that no one within women's basketball circles wishes to discuss. The title? Unrivaled encounters major difficulties as viewership drops sharply entering year 2. Not reduce, not lessen, plummet. And the figures are far worse than anybody might have foreseen. Allow me to illustrate the situation for you. The first year of Unrivaled was supposed to represent a revolution, an entirely full arena of 870 spectators viewing full-court 3-on-3 basketball, complete with WNBA salaries and lodging. The structure felt novel, the excitement was genuine, and people predicted this would transform the sport indefinitely. Its premiere evening drew 1,000 viewers. The full season averaged 221,000 watchers on TNT.
Ratings than the Chicago Sky, or the Fever get much higher ratings than the Connecticut Sun, or they get higher attendance than this. The Golden State Valkyries have higher attendance than the Las Vegas Aces. Like, you need to be able to report things accurately instead of trying to spin a narrative at all the time.
Moving ahead to year 2, January 5th's opening slate, 175,000 watchers across 2 matchups on TNT and Turu TV. The Turu TV exclusive games drew 32,000 watchers. 32,000. That is no mistake. Matchups on January 9th averaged 139,000 watchers. Previous games during January, 71,000 watchers on Turu TV. Compute it. That marks a 60% fall from Season 1 in certain periods. In others, it's far worse. Now this is where things turn intriguing. Alex Bazile, who is by chance Nafissa Collier's spouse, gave the typical PR reply. We're proud of the product we're putting on the court. Leagues aren't built overnight. And guess what? He's completely accurate about that final part. Leagues aren't built overnight. The NBA took decades to become what it is today. The WNBA has been toiling for 30 years. But here's the issue. That's not what Unrivaled has truly claimed this entire time. They portrayed themselves as the better option, the league that handles things right, the league that pays players what they merit, the league that doesn't make women fly commercial or stay in cheap hotels. They established their entire brand on being superior to the WNBA, and now that the ratings are heavily plummeting, suddenly its leagues take time. You can't have it both ways. You can't spend months hyping yourself as the savior of women's basketball, dragging the WNBA through the mud, and then when truth hits, pull out the be patient with us card. That's not how this operates. That's not how any of this operates. And let's discuss Nafissa Collier for a moment. She recently stated she definitely knows what's needed to build an enduring league. That quote will age like milk left out in the Miami sun, because if you know what it takes to build a sustainable league, why are your ratings down 60%? Why are you getting 32,000 viewers on some broadcasts? Why is the sparkle already wearing off in year 2? Here's the awkward truth. Nobody wants to say aloud, Unrivaled was never going to be what they pledged. Not without Caitlin Clark. And they knew it. They absolutely knew it. Remember the whole 22 minutes of your time stunt they did. The press release teasing multiple 22s, making everyone think Caitlin and Aja Wilson were about to join. That wasn't marketing genius. That was desperation. And when Caitlin's team announced the very next day she's not playing, the outcome was clear. Because here's what Unrivaled refuses to admit. Caitlin Clark is the needle mover. She's the reason WNBA ratings exploded. She's the reason the Fever games got higher viewership than everyone else combined. She's the reason casual fans started paying attention to women's basketball. Without her, Unrivaled is just another off-season league trying to stay afloat. And honestly, it would cheapen Caitlin's brand to play in any of these off-season leagues. As long as the WNBA exists and has a season, playing in Unrivaled or Project Beat or any other startup lessens what she's building. She's bigger than all of them, and she knows it. Now let's discuss the elephant in the room, the WNBA CBA negotiations, because this is where everything comes full circle. The new CBA that's being negotiated right now is about to pay players an average salary of $500,000, max contracts over $1 million. Read that again. The WNBA is about to pay players more than Unrivaled does. The league that supposedly couldn't pay players properly is about to exceed the league that bragged about paying them well. So what was Unrivaled's purpose again? Was it truly about getting players paid? Was it about keeping them on American soil? Because if that was the goal, congratulations. Mission accomplished. The WNBA heard you loud and clear. They're opening up the checkbook. They're raising salaries 6 times what they were. But players are about to make more money than NBA players were making in their 30th season. So why does Unrivaled still need to exist? This is the part where people get mad at me. They say I'm hating. They say I'm not supporting women's basketball. They say I'm being too critical. But let me ask you something. If we can't be honest about the state of the league, how is it supposed to get better? If we can't call out when viewership is down 60%, when attendance isn't what was promised, when the hype doesn't match reality, then we're just lying to ourselves. The WNBA has spent 3 decades constructing infrastructure, 3 decades fostering a fan base, 3 decades toiling through low attendance and modest TV deals, and players flying commercial. And now all these new leagues appear talking about how they're gonna do it better, how they're going to revolutionize the game, how they have all the
honest reality, you guys. The WNBA is now going to be paying players a higher salary than what was reported that Unrivaled is paying its players. So yes, they paid them a higher salary for the last season and that, but with this new CBA, if the players agree to the terms, the max contract is going to be over $1 million.
It happens. Second-year viewership plummets. The league meant to rescue women's hoops struggles to hold its premier audience. The league that sought to show the WNBA's faults now grasps why the WNBA has been cautious about expansion, about spending, about growth. Breanna Stewart tried to give it a truly positive impression. She mentioned TV viewership matters, and they wish them consistently high no matter when they play. She noted folks aren't accustomed to watching women's pro basketball, then unless it's EuroLeague, and that's a valid point. Yet it fails to account for a 60% decrease from year 1 to year 2. It doesn't clarify 32,000 viewers for some specific broadcasts. It doesn't show why the initial excitement faded so rapidly. Here's my hypothesis, and this will likely make certain folks uneasy. Unrivaled was never about creating a lasting league. It was leverage. It was a bargaining strategy for the WNBA CBA. Consider that. Nafissa Collier and Breanna Stewart are both actively at the WNBA's negotiating table. They both established Unrivaled. They both spent months discussing how much better their new league is. And now the WNBA is set to grant players the largest pay increase in league history. Just coincidence? I do not believe so. They employed Unrivaled as a key bargaining chip. They formed competition to compel the WNBA's hand, and it succeeded. The players are now about to get paid. They're about to receive the salaries they deserve. They're about to gain the accommodations, the travel, and all they've been requesting. Mission accomplished. But what's next? What occurs for Unrivaled when the WNBA is paying players more? What occurs when the league they competed against starts offering improved contracts? What occurs when players must choose between a 30-year-old established league with better pay and a 2-year-old startup with declining viewership? The answer is obvious. Unrivaled either evolves or dies, and right now, it's looking a lot more like the second option unless something dramatically changes, unless they figure out how to capture mainstream attention, unless they can reverse this viewership trend. Unrivaled is going to be a footnote in women's basketball history. And you want to know the craziest part? They're competing in Philadelphia this month at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. Capacity 17,000 to 20,000 depending on the event. They assert it's sold out. If that's true, that could be huge for them. That could demonstrate they can fill large venues. That could change the narrative, but I'm skeptical. Sold out according to whom? What will the actual attendance truly be? Are we discussing 17,000 bodies in seats or 17,000 tickets distributed, including comps and giveaways? Because here's the point about women's basketball right now. There's so much spin, so much hype, so much manufactured excitement that doesn't match reality. The Golden State Valkyries reported higher attendance than the Las Vegas Aces, but context truly mattered. New team, fresh market, curiosity factor. Let's observe where they stand in year 3. Let's see if that attendance sustained.
If they wouldn't have built it up and been like, well, the WNBA sucks and everybody there sucks, which I am on their side, I do think with the WNBA, so much could be better. But anybody who was here thinking that Unrivaled is just going to be this massive thing and it's going to put the WNBA under, like, I've been saying that from the beginning.
Let's bring up Project B, since if you found Unrivaled confusing, get ready. Project B has just announced they'll be stopping in Tokyo in April 2027. April 2027. That falls within the WNBA season, or at minimum, it's so tight that training camp will coincide. The tour extends November through April, each city hosting a 10-day event. The last stop in Tokyo takes place from March 26th to April 4th. Figure it out. WNBA training camp usually begins in late April or even early May. The new CBA discussions advocate for an earlier start to prolong the season. So these Project B players will be competing until April 4th, then expected to report to WNBA training camp a couple weeks later after 6 months of off-season basketball, after visiting many countries, after participating in tournament after tournament. If I were a WNBA GM, I wouldn't offer a max contract to anyone in Project B. I simply won't. You want to play for half the year in another league globetrotting, putting strain and stress on your body, then appear at my training camp anticipating a max deal? Definitely not. You're receiving a discount. You're receiving lower offers because I'm not paying premium prices for someone who's treating my... Kelsey Mitchell is part of Project B. These are players who ought to get max contracts. But will WNBA clubs give them max money, aware they're away for 6 months off season, aware they aren't training specifically for the WNBA year, aware they risk injury in outside leagues? This is the issue no one wishes to confront. For the NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL, athletes are legally barred from joining off-season circuits unless officially approved by their primary league. You cannot simply join some random basketball league overseas during the NBA off-season. Your contract will not permit it. Your team will not permit it. Your insurance will not permit it. But the WNBA lacks that influence currently. The WNBA cannot dictate where athletes participate during the off-season because traditionally, players needed to compete abroad merely to earn a living. Yet today, with wages nearing $500,000 on average and exceeding $1 million for top contracts, that claim is invalid. Athletes no longer need to compete internationally. They do not require Unrivaled. They do not require Project B. They can earn a proper income simply playing in the WNBA. Therefore, what occurs next? Will these off-season leagues cease to exist? Will they shift to becoming WNBA-approved events? Will they attempt to rival the WNBA directly for talent? Because currently, it appears they face a lose-lose scenario. If the WNBA succeeds and compensates players well, these leagues become unneeded. If the WNBA falters, these leagues lack the structure or viewers to compensate. The sole situation where Unrivaled and Project B prosper long-term is should the WNBA collapse, and I believe no one truly desires that. Not their creators, not the athletes, not their supporters. Thus, we're caught in this odd limbo where everyone attempts to coexist, but no one understands how it should operate. And this is where the contradiction truly emerges. The very athletes at the WNBA bargaining table seeking increased pay, improved amenities, extended seasons, and greater esteem are the same ones, starting and participating in rival leagues. One cannot ask the WNBA to treat you as a top professional league, while at the same time creating alternatives that weaken the WNBA's standing. Imagine if LeBron James established a rival basketball league during the NBA's offseason, then arrived at CBA talks asking for more funds from the NBA. It would be absurd. The NBA would dismiss him derisively, but for the WNBA, it's not just accepted, it's praised as initiative and strength. Listen, I completely support athletes being compensated. I completely support athletes having choices. I completely support new ideas in women's basketball, but there must be uniformity. There must be truth. You cannot disparage the WNBA for months. Promote your substitute league as the answer to all women's basketball issues. And then if your league falters, abruptly act like a victim and request patience. The truth is this: Unrivaled is discovering what the WNBA understand. Creating a lasting professional sports league is exceedingly challenging. It requires time, capital, structure, and crucially, a dedicated fan base. You cannot produce that instantly. You cannot purchase it with large wages and luxurious facilities. You must acquire it game by game, season by season, year by year. And the WNBA has been accomplishing precisely that for 30 years. Amid sparse attendance, humble TV agreements, doubtful media reports, and continuous doubts about its survival, the WNBA endured. Not merely endured, but flourished. Grew into new territories, boosted audience numbers, nurtured top talents, established a base that can sustain $500,000 average wages. So when these new leagues emerge promising to do it better, quicker, larger, I'm doubtful. Present the evidence. Present consistent growth. Present annual improvement. Do not present me year one excitement that collapses in year two. Do not present me exaggerated attendance figures that omit the whole picture. Do not present me social media chatter that fails to become genuine viewership. The WNBA is poised to demonstrate something truly vital. They're poised to show that the long-standing league, the one that's been working hard for 3 decades, remains the top spot for women's basketball. They're poised to show that endurance and foundation mean more than fanfare and sparkle. They're poised to show that lasting development outperforms brief thrill every single time. And if I'm correct regarding this, if Unrivaled keeps faltering while the WNBA prospers, then all who've been criticized. It's not in new leagues with falling popularity. It's not in off-season events that clash with the main season. It's not in rival leagues that split focus and funds. The future is in fortifying the WNBA, backing the league present since 1997, building upon the structure already formed rather than trying to demolish and begin anew. Unrivaled had its time. Project B will have its time, yet times diminish. The WNBA lasts eternally, and the quicker all grasp this, the greater women's basketball will become. This is the true assessment. No one desired, but all required. The viewership doesn't lie. The figures don't lie. The patterns don't lie. And currently, they're all signaling a single path. The WNBA is succeeding. The alternatives are faltering. And the athletes who sided with rival leagues are about to discover a very costly lesson about where their allegiance should have rested all along. Leave a comment and tell me if you think Unrivaled reaches its 3rd year. Let me know if you believe Project B is going to function. Inform me if you feel these off-season leagues are aiding or harming women's basketball, since this discussion has just begun, and I wish to hear what you truly believe.